Welcome, patrons of the arts, lovers of spook, filth, and thrills, to the... Do we have a name for this segment? Welcome back to the YouTube channel of the Abhorrent Cinema. I'm Noah Gray.
And I'm Lilly Rascal, and today we have a very special guest to talk about burlesque, and especially art and horror burlesque. And with us is Dr. Bones from Colorado.
Yeah!
Hello, darling.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited.
We are so excited to have you. So, let's recap here a little bit. So you and I met at Burning City, right?
Yes, that's correct.
So for those of you who don't know, Burning City was a vaudeville burlesque drag fringe festival in Chicago. And was that 2018 or 2019?
2018.
So we met at Uptown Underground, and you were in Red Rum's Night of Horror, or whatever it was called, but the show that Red Rum curated. And I saw you do an absolutely aggravating, disturbing, and thrilling number where you were wearing like a full body prosthetic and were covered in blood, and there was American Horror Story theme playing, and it was one of the most perturbing things I saw that night. And it was a night of horror. So
thank you very much. That I take that as a massive compliment. Thank you.
It was meant as such. So yeah, lo and behold, everyone, Dr. Bones, you are a burlesque performer, samba dancer, makeup artist, question mark?
I have dabbled, but I would not necessarily call myself a pro.
Okay.
Or my husband's arena. So when it comes to the heavy makeup stuff, he is largely responsible for helping me with that. So I admit, as much as I do a lot of stuff, without him, I'm completely lost.
I always love when couples work together and all the different people work together to make like this one look. That's awesome.
He does my costuming. We call ourselves the Nightmare Factory or Molotov Cock Tease.
Ooh, Molotov cock tease.
I like that.
So I think you have to real quick tell us about that. How did that union come together?
Boy, I'm sorry. There's like no short. I was trying to think of the short answers to any possible questions, and there just aren't. I'm sorry. I'll do my best.
We'll edit it down.
Cool. He is a costume designer. And he worked at the big regional theater here in Denver, the Denver Center Theater Company. And we met because I was go-go dancing and he was my biggest tipper. Yep. So,
love it.
Right? Fantastic. There's a 22-year age difference between us. He is, I know, right? Love it.
Love it more and more.
Over time, I was working at a venue in town as the stage manager that primarily did burlesque. And he introduced me to burlesque initially. And one thing just kind of led to another. And I found myself on stage, even though I said I would never do it. And the act that you saw in Chicago was actually the second act I ever created and the first horror piece I had ever created.
Oh, wow.
When did you make that?
When that was 2013. That made its debut on October 19th, 2013.
Wow.
I know that because I often say my horror story began on October 19th, 2013. And so he did the whole thing. He did the whole costume on that, the mask, the bodysuit, the corset. I think I handled the breakaway stuff, but he handled everything else. After that moment, we kind of set a precedent that this was kind of the direction that we were going to go in. And from there, we've always had this working relationship. Sometimes I'm sure I'm demanding, but I'm trying to get a lot better about being equitable about how this all works. So, but we make really good team, and it gives him an opportunity to do work that he wouldn't normally be able to.
Wow. Did you do any like classic or boylesque, or did it just go straight to horror right away?
My very first act was actually a go-go striptease to the song Stop the Rock by Apollo 440.
I love that.
So that was the first song that I actually, well, I shouldn't even say that, because if you want layers upon layers upon layers,
I do.
If we talk about my act, The Outcast, which is the super long one, Final Movement is actually the very first number that I put on stage when I was a leather title holder in the Denver leather community in 2011.
Work.
So you were pretty on stage a little bit before then with your leather work.
Kind of. That was definitely more beauty pageant-y in a way, but with a leather veneer there. And I shouldn't say it was just that, because there was community service. There was, we did actually try to give back to the community and stuff like that as best we could. But that it was the first time I did boylesque, as it were, was strictly because I had this title and the venue wanted somebody with a title because they were doing their first like gay show at the time. That's what they were advertising it as. Yeah, and I wound up on stage some random night not having any idea what I was doing. And then somehow along the way it evolved into this.
It happens like that. No, it really does. I mean, my first burlesque act was my burlesque audition at the bar. I thought it was closed. I think I got those nipple coverages from Target and I Sharpied hearts on them. Like, you never know, because I didn't take classes. It just happened.
So in that process, were you always Dr. Bones, or did Dr. Bones come about in some way? Did you have a name before that?
I did have a name before that. It was Stog Menage a Trois.
Okay.
Because it was a play on stage manager, which was my actual career and profession at the time.
Yeah, I can see it. I mean, hey, look, it's not the least creative burlesque name we've ever heard by any stretch of the imagination.
We've all started somewhere. So, like, we all started, and, like, how many people have other names before they found the name? There's so many people that, like, they talk about their old name, and you're like, that's not you. I'm so happy you found something. So, Dr. Bones. So, why Dr. Bones?
Well, the original joke was the full name was Dr. Bones, PhD. Dr. Bones, he has a pretty huge bones. That sort of thing. And the MC never did it. So it was like, okay, that eventually dropped. But
gotcha.
It came about because there's actually a song by the Cherry Poppin' Daddies called Dr. Bones. And it's not... People in the pocket with the voodoo moan. You can't trust him because he's never alone. And then you start talking chicken shit and grab your fuzzy dice. It really has nothing to do with my persona. It's just a song that I grew up listening to. And it just stuck. And for some reason, when I thought about it, and I was like, Dr. Bones, that could be okay. And then I asked Midnight Martini, because she was here at that point in time, and she was actually my burlesque instructor. I said, what do you think about that? And she said, I like that a lot better. And then it just stuck. And with it, I think it kind of built a natural foray into my natural love of horror.
How long have you been into horror?
Oh, wow. My entire life.
Okay.
From the moment I watched Halloween by John Carpenter at the age of 10, when I wasn't supposed to watch Halloween by John Carpenter. And it left a mark. And to this day, slashers are still my favorite subgenre of horror. No matter how many times I've seen the same damn slasher, I still love them because that film just left a mark on me so strong. And it started then, and it's been consistent ever since.
So with Halloween, because Halloween is, I mean, it's a staple. But it's very different from other horror films. it takes a long time to get there. There is gore, but it's not that much gore. There's a lot of silence. There's not a lot of speaking. Did you like Michael more, or were you more of the victim side?
This is a great question. So I think it's a combination of all of it. And I think that's what John Carpenter was really striving for, was it's the shape as it was written in the script is this force, almost ghost-like, but impenetrable and devastating in everything that it does. But you actually don't see it that much in the film. It shows up when it needs to and then disappears. It is a very quiet film and very still. It does take its time. And I think all of that is important into creating the success of that film. That idea of the minute that actually took an hour sort of idea.
Yeah.
And so I remember being absolutely terrified after watching that film, because it was like, this could happen anywhere. This could be any time. Like, yes, it was 1978, but obviously we have seen how many incarnations into the present day of the same idea, of the same terror. And so to me, it was just like, this is the one that really said, here is the standard, and now you have to go from here. But it was the one that really, I think, brought that level of terror to the forefront for so many people, not just myself.
And can I just selfishly interject real quick?
Please.
Something that I believe it was an interview with Nick Castle. I believe it was him who said that one thing he wanted to do with the character that he thought would be really creepy is if he doesn't look down when he's going down the stairs. So I remember he said the way he did that was he practiced going up and down the stairs and counting them. And I think of that strange random quote all the time when I'm going up the stairs on the CTA wearing my mask now. Because I'm like, I wonder if I can not bend my head all the way down to look where I'm going with the mask.
That's such a great way. I mean, and I love that, because I've heard the same story, basically, that's what he did.
Yeah.
I love it because that left a mark on you. And that's something that to this day you think of, and you're like, oh, like it pops in your head unconsciously. And then all of a sudden you're just like, I wonder. I love that so much.
The William Shatner mask, of course, like would look really weird looking down. He was like trying to count his steps going down, and just like, because it was based off of William Shatner, wasn't it?
Yep.
It was a William Shatner mask turned inside out, spray painted white.
Yeah. So think of that squished looking down the stairs.
Yeah.
That'd be a whole new horror movie right there. So the calmness of that movie and what you're talking about also, but having such a force on stage, would you say that reminds yourself of like your own performance? Do you like to be that force on stage that is more realistic in the horror, or do you like taking that fantasy to realism with your act?
Again, I would say a little bit of both. It really depends on the act, but I would say that the force and the imposing figure for sure. Having the 80s be the primary period of time for horror that influenced the work I do, it's all about the imposing figure. And it doesn't matter what genre it is, slasher, monster, whatever, it's the imposing figure. And so I very much like to incorporate that. I'm also 6'4"-ish in real life. And so it's like, I'm a big guy. Might as well play my strengths, do these things where I am big and I am imposing and I am intimidating. But then I also love the fantasy element because it's horror and everybody's idea of horror is personal. So why can't it be fantastical? And why can't it be something way out of left field that maybe doesn't make sense to everybody? But it's like, this is how I am interpreting this.
I have to say, the second that you were describing Michael Myers as an idea, as like a malevolent but fantastic force, I thought in my head, oh, that's you on stage.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to hear that. Michael, recently I have fallen in love with Jason, but Michael has...
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I really the Friday the 13th has always been so interesting to me because Jason's another character where it's like you know the backstory because that was the first movie.
Right.
But do you actually really know this character?
No, and I don't care how many prequels they try to make in any franchise. And I'm sorry, the Friday the 13th franchise is a fucking mess.
Oh, I watched it every Halloween. I pick a new one, and I watched all of them. Friday the 13th takes New York.
Okay.
Jason in space?
Hey, Jason X's guilty pleasures. Don't be on that one. I love that one.
Jason in space is amazing when they're in the viral thing, and he's hitting the fake girls in the sleepwear.
Want to smoke some pot? Want to drink beer? Want to have premarital sex?
Oh my God. So I have two questions that have just been brought up. Well, first of all, since you are a slasher fan, all-time favorite kill scene in a movie?
Oh, fuck, man.
If it's a tie, I'm fine with that.
No, I've got it. I know one. Sleepaway Camp 2.
Okay.
The Outhouse.
Oh, yes!
That's because I'm sorry. No matter how many times I've watched that, it's the sound of the gurgling that does it for me.
Yes.
I'm like, because you know that she's down there in the shit and the piss and the leeches, and she's gurgling, meaning it's getting into her mouth and down her esophagus. And I'm just like, there is nothing that is comfortable to me about that. So, no, I have to say.
I'm sorry. I know you're coughing, but it's like you ran out of frame to throw up.
Perfect timing.
Oh, no.
I got a really dry voice, and I didn't want to cough over you talking about something. I mean, yeah, that kill scene. There are some pretty great kill scenes in all the Sleepaway Camps. Yeah, and that's another movie that, like, the first one, very different from the other ones.
From every other installment.
Every other thing. Like, I'm not gonna lie, her screaming at the end, her face has been one of the weird, scary memories in my mind. Like, if I'm like having to go pee in the middle of the night, like that, her face will just flash in my brain. Probably because they attached her face to the other body and it looks so not what it's supposed to be. But then it got hilariously funny
right
in the other ones.
It definitely got. Did you ever see the most recent one that came out in like 2007, Return to Sleepaway Camp?
I haven't, no.
No.
It was one of those where it was like, okay, I get what you guys were doing, but I think you kind of missed the mark. Another series, if you want one that does not follow its like structure at all, Prom Night. First one is great. First one's a classic. That's a solid slasher.
But it still is weird. The script was always interesting to me. I don't know why. It kind of reminded me of Sleepaway Camp, where it's just like the acting and the overacting. But then, is this supposed to be funny, or is this supposed to be actually like very terrifyingly sad? And I did not watch the other one because I was so confused with the first one.
Okay, so first one is just solid slasher. Number 2 and number 3 follow a completely different plot line that's supernatural, and the third one gets fucking weird. Like, in a way that only 80s movies could ever get weird.
Let me ask you this. Are there any bad movies that you really love?
Oh, yeah. There's a whole fucking list of those guys.
Okay.
I'm going to throw this one out there. Films like Arachnophobia. I'm going to say where it took me 5 years to watch that film because I am actually arachnophobic. First 20 minutes with the legs in the coffin. Then when I finally got past that and watched the rest of the movie, I was like, this movie is really bad.
That was actually one of my questions that like I was going to ask is like if there's anything you're actually scared of. So you are scared of spiders.
Basically anything with 8 legs, so scorpions count in that, weird camel spidery ant things count in that. if it has more than 6 legs, we're probably not going to get along.
Yeah, you're also scared. So you also don't like spiders either.
I don't like them. I don't know if I'd list them as a fear. I find them agitating.
Okay.
And I like the big spiders. I actually grew up next to a place called Wild Rumpus Bookstore, and they had a bunch of different animals there in this bookstore. And they had some tarantulas that you could pet in the spooky area. And they had tarantulas that were in these cute little habitats. And if you wanted to, they would let you pet them. And I loved petting them when I was younger. Yeah.
I love that place. I wish I had had a place like that as a kid, and maybe I wouldn't have a fear of spiders right now. But, oh man, you are way braver than I. I've gotten to where if I see a spider, I'm like, hey, I see you. I acknowledge you. You're cool. Don't you dare come any closer to me. Like, then all bets are off. But, I don't scream and run away anymore.
Sure. If I may, let's talk about some of your inspirations real quick. So you've already said that 80s cinema is a huge source of inspiration for you. Looking through your pictures, I also see some very obvious Rocky Horror.
And those pictures were taken from a production we did of Rocky Horror. I think anybody who identifies as anything alternative, Tim Curry had something to do with that.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
I genuinely think that if he had not done that role, the landscape that we now see would have been very different. So of course, Rocky Horror was a very, very big part of my development as a gay man.
Love that. Apart from those, where are some other sources that you turn to when you're creating? What else gets your creative juices flowing?
Music is probably the most important.
Okay.
So it's really, typically I create the scenario based on the music. The music will tell me what it actually wants to be. And if it's not just one song that's speaking to me, I'll put it together in a way that does speak to me.
I'm the same way.
And so but the music really is the driving force. I listen to a lot of horror movie scoring. A lot of the times it actually feels like it's more at the same speed as what's going through my head. This never stops. I call it the film reel because it just keeps going and never stops. Yep. And sometimes it can be really hard to grab an image from this constantly rushing stream of images.
Yeah.
But for some reason, the horror music seems to actually match up, and then I can match the speed of the film, if that makes any sense as it's running.
Complete sense.
What is your favorite film score to listen to?
Oh boy, good night, good questions.
And if it has to be a tie, we're fine with a tie.
That's fine too.
Okay, I actually, it's not a horror score. Have you ever heard the score to The Fountain?
Yeah.
No.
The Fountain was a severely underrated masterpiece. So this is Darren Aronofsky coming off of Requiem for a Dream. He did The Fountain with Hugh Jackman, Rachel Weisz, and Clint Mansell did the score again like he did for Requiem for a Dream. And I heard the score before I ever saw the film, and I was bawling. It was some of the most beautiful music I've ever heard in my life, some of the most passionate, it was emotional and lyrical and gorgeous and just all the things you wanted it to be. And then when I saw the movie, I bawled my eyes out because it's a gorgeous film. It's a severely underrated film. And so I actually listen to that score not as frequently as I used to, but every now and then it's kind of like, I'm just going to pop that on and let that kind of do what it's going to do.
I think it's important to have, as artists, a safe space, I guess, a safe place, I should say, that you can always return to, something you can always get something out of. I think that's so important.
And then on the flip side, because I agree, if I don't want to go into that place, Hellbilly Deluxe by Rob Zombie. Hands down. If I want to go into that space that you were just talking about, that's...
Sure. Do you have any favorite horror television series? Anything that you're watching currently, maybe?
So there's some American Horror Story that we absolutely love. There are some that we don't. I feel like that's kind of a universal theme for everybody. You like something. I think we can all agree that Roanoke was a piece of shit. Yeah, we did watch Creepshow, the series, this last year, and it was fun. I mean, it's definitely in the vein of the original Creepshow, super campy, over the top. Adrienne Barbeau comes back for one episode. It was fabulous. And so that one's a good time. That was a fun one. I personally loved Scream Queens. Adored Scream Queens. I was super bummed when that got canceled because I was like, no, this is actually what I love. Mm-hmm. I love watching these mean girls literally like killing each other and with the slasher veneer and Jamie Lee Curtis. I'm like, I'm done. Just take all my money, Ryan Murphy.
I love that. I know that was a polarizing one, but...
It was. That one was, but I loved it. We're also... This is more comedy, but Vampires, What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh,
yeah. The movie and the show are superb. So we got about 5 or 6 episodes into Bates Motel and bailed.
Same.
Yep.
We were kind of like, as soon as we got to the sex trafficking, I was like, and this just went way over. And I was like, and not that I have a problem with it going way over here. I was like, I'm not sure I necessarily want to follow this plot line. It's very rare that you find a remake or a re-envisioning that actually captures the spirit of the original and bridges the gap of both generations.
So there's all kinds of different directions that people take their work. But in terms of your work, do you have a favorite act that you've created?
I love, so it's kind of a toss-up, and it's funny because they're kind of the same act. My Lost Boys Cry Little Sister act, and then my act, The Outcast. And the reason I say they're the same is because the first 5 minutes of The Outcast is actually Cry Little Sister just reimagined.
Okay.
It was one of those that I realized somewhere along the way that could act as a piece for both of these. So it could be a standalone or it could be plugged into this bigger narrative that I had created. Like 2 acts with 1 costume. Awesome. Done.
Love it. If I can just take this out of left field, we've talked about all these horror things. Where does the samba dancing fit into Dr. Bones?
Oh, yeah.
So working at this venue, there was a dance troupe that came in called Bella Diva World Dance, and they did samba dancing. And I had just recently discovered what samba was because of the music video to Pound the Alarm by Nicki Minaj.
Okay.
And I saw the Pacistas, the ladies in the carnival gear and all of that, and at the time, I thought it was just Nikki being extra with her extras.
Right.
And being, this is how this is going to be. And my husband actually said, oh, no, if it's Carnival, that's like spot on. He's like, this is what they actually wear. This is, they parade down the street in these big feathers and all of this other stuff. And as soon as he gave me the cultural context to what was going on, I suddenly was like, this is really fascinating. And I couldn't get it out of my head. Well, lo and behold, this dance company that is performing at the venue I'm working at happens to do this particular dance style. And so over time, I started taking classes with them. And then about 4 years ago, I actually got into the samba company. And now I'm in the Samba company, I'm in the Bollywood dance company, and I'm also teaching men's and male identifying fitness class through this place.
That is so fun.
Yeah, it's completely on the opposite end of things, but I love being able to come to the stage and being like, I can bring one scary and I can bring one like not even remotely scary, high energy, technical dance piece.
And I have to say, the first time I saw a Samba clip on your Instagram, I was like, who is this? Wait, what? And I love that your Instagram is like you with monster masks in one picture, and then the next is you with a feather back piece, looking very tan, talking about your Samba butt.
Thank you very much. That was pride, and I had been working very hard to get that Samba butt. After 5 years of hard Samba labor, it finally popped one day, and I was just I literally took a picture and sent it to my instructor and said, my Samba butt finally came in. I was like, it only took us 5 years to get here, but it finally showed up.
But we did it.
All
right. So I've got some rapid questions for you that I think are very important for every horror fan to know where they stand, if I may.
Oh, shit. Okay, yeah, let's do this.
You ready? Okay. Freddy or Jason, who are you rooting for?
Jason.
Jason? Vampires or werewolves?
Werewolves.
Okay. Do you want to see a final girl or no survivors?
Oh, shit. Final girl.
Final girl?
Final girl.
Do you want the killer to die in the end or live on?
Always live on.
Gotcha. I think I know the answer to this one, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Tons of gore or off-screen kills?
Both.
Okay.
I think both are very effective in their own rights.
Best of both worlds. I'll accept that. Dramatic music stings or silence?
Silence.
And finally, who's your favorite Dracula actor?
Christopher Lee.
I respect that.
Thank you. Although Gary Oldman was also brilliant.
That's my favorite, personally.
Gary Oldman was brilliant, but there's something about Christopher Lee. Her Draculas are iconic. So
I get it.
Those are fun questions, and those are tough.
I'm glad.
Damn. Like all of them.
Fabulous. I'm glad you approve. I think we have grilled you and chilled you and analyzed your brain. Unless there's anything else about Dr. Bones that you think the public should know.
Use that microphone.
More tricks up my sleeve.
There are more tricks up your sleeve?
Oh, yeah. My horror story is just beginning. There's a lot more of me to come.
Fabulous.
So
if our patrons of the arts, our movie lovers, our horror fans at home want to check you out, where can they find you?
You can find me on Facebook. You can either look me up by my real name, which is Kyle Kastner, Kastner, or you can look me up under Dr. Bones. I have a page for both. You can also look me up on Instagram at boylesque_bones, all one word, lowercase. You can also find me on YouTube by looking up Dr. Bones. I recommend looking up Dr. Bones' American Horror Story because it'll cut to me as opposed to the bazillions of other Dr. Bones that are on YouTube.
Yeah, now that you mentioned that, I bet there are other people with that name.
There is a lot more out there, so I find if you actually put the title in with it, it tends to at least pull it to me, and then you can click on my profile and find the rest. So
I feel like a lot of those videos might be very interesting to look up too while you're looking for Dr. Bones.
Lily, we're gonna watch the American Horror Story act together later after Dr. Bones gets off. I think we have to.
Yeah.
I wish I could see the reaction. Because that's a really good video. The Satanic Panic one with Red Rum is a really good video.
This was so much fun getting to know you, and I can't wait to watch more of your stuff now. And now I want to rewatched. Well, now I want to go back to some of the horror movies that you talked about and rethink them with a different view, with a different light. But no, I had so much fun talking with you. You're such a delight. When life gets back to some sort of reality and normalness, I can't wait to see what we all do, and I can't wait to see more of your acts. It's going to be, I can't wait. Yay.
Great. Thank you both so much for having me. This has been a lot of fun. I didn't realize so much time had passed so quickly. I was like, we can go for hours. Like, can we do the director's extended unrated, 13-hour edition? Well, let's go.
God, I wish, but maybe once I can hire an editor. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you, Dr. Bones, for joining us. Once again, I'm Noah Gray.
I'm Lily Rascal.
And thank you for coming to the Abhorrent Cinema. Happy haunting, everyone.
Ooh.